Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Afika binti Nur Azmi, and my metric number is 2022919741. And I will start with the company background of a 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven was founded by J.C. Thompson in 1927 and was established in Malaysia in 1984. And 7-Eleven before this was known as the Southland Ice Company and then changed to 7-Elevens. 7-Eleven started to open its door to a local entrepreneur in 2009 using their unique franchising. And 7-Eleven also is the single largest of convenience stores and have around 2,400 stores nationwide and have been serving around 9,000 customers daily. And for their vision and mission, for the mission of a 7-Eleven is to consistently serve the changing needs of a customer for their convenience, and the vision of a 7-Eleven is to be the best retailer for their convenience. Approach, there were three types, which is natures of business activities, the existence of manager that are responsible for their activities, and the third one is information presented to the board of directors. For the factors to consider having a segment reporting, the first one in nature of product and services. For products in a 7-Eleven, in a convenience store has been divided into two segments, which is the food, beverage, mobile communication, basic personal care, and etc. And then for the pharmaceutical, it's just on their segment only. And then for the services, 7-Eleven was provided service such as a reload touch and go, and then bills payment, gift cards, and others. For the nature of a production process, 7-Eleven has been produced snacks like bread and sandwiches. And then 7-Eleven also have a product from different local and international brands in their stores. Next, for the types or class of a customer in 7-Eleven, we have three types, which is kids to adult, loyal customer, and also families or working people. For kids or adult, in 7-Eleven stores, we have sweets, snacks, and it's really suit on them at the range of the age. And they can just grab anything they want at all available stores in 7-Eleven. And then for a loyal customer, 7-Eleven will always give a good service to them and keep improving it so that loyal customer may support and always satisfied with it. And then for families and working people, it is really suit for them, for those who no time to go to the supermarket and they can just grab at the 7-Eleven stores. And they also easy to pay bill payment or want to reload something such as reload e-wallets, reload mobile reloads, and others. So we go to the method to distribute product or services in 7-Eleven. In 7-Eleven, they use a method on a product to store by road and also an online platforms. For products to store by road, 7-Eleven has around 2,400 stores nationwide and have been serving around 9,000 customers daily. So customer will just walk in their stores every day to try or to grab something that they really favorite on it. So it will increase their sales and also will get a higher sales and can distribute a lot of feedbacks from their customer. And for the online platforms, nowadays people will always on the online social media and will always find information on an online platform such as Facebook, Instagram, and 7-Eleven do an ads also in every social media so that people will get a lot of information on that, and people will always go to 7-Eleven to try the new products and so on. Next, we go to type of segment. Type of segment, we have heard a lot of it, and the two of it that we choose is a business segment and also a geographical segment. For a business segment, it is a part of a company which based on the product or services, and for a geographical segment, it is a part of company which based on the locations of their business. For a business segment, 7-Eleven has food, beverage, mobile communication, and personal care, and others. And for pharmaceuticals, it is on their own segment in 7-Eleven stores. For a geographical segment, 7-Eleven have in around all of states in Malaysia. And for example, all states of Malaysia has 7-Eleven stores, and on a strategic location, their loyal customer and the regular customer will find their store easily. So we go to identify the chief of decision making and its responsibilities. The board members will make the best decisions about resource allocations, evaluate performance, and others. And chief of a decision making is the highest level of the management or the decision was made. And then it may be either a CEO, CFO, and COO, and etc. So here is a CODM, Chief of Decision Making in a 7-Eleven. Tan Yu Ming and Wong Wai Kiong is the Executive Director and also a Co-Chief of Executive Officer, and the rest was an independent non-executive director and also a non-independent non-executive director of a 7-Eleven. So we go to the responsibilities of a Chief of Decision Making of a 7-Eleven. They are responsibilities to review, implement, approve, evaluate and monitor all the strategic plans and the policies of the company, and they were taking into considerations of sustainability of the group business. And then the second one was to review the adequacy of internal control systems and management informations of the groups. Third one was to identify the principal risk and ensure internal control systems and mitigation measures are implemented to manage these risks. And the fourth one is to develop a corporate of conduct to address, among others, any conflicts of interest to directors, shareholders, and management. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Akila Shakira binti Azman and I'm Account Executive 2. Next, there are two types of tests that need to be conducted to identify the reportable segment, which is 10% threshold test and the 75% threshold test. For 10% threshold test, we have a three types of tests to identify with whether it's reportable or not, which is revenue test, operating test profit, and identifiable asset test. For revenue test, which is about revenue from sales to external customer to an inter-segment sale is 10% and more than total revenue of all operating segments. The operating profit test is the absolute amount of the all segment reported profit or loss is 10% or more greater than the absolute amount, and the identifiable asset test is the asset are 10% or more of the total of operating segments. Where a segment does not meet the 10% threshold test, it can be non-reportable segment unless it can be designated as a reportable segment despite the size, or can be combined with the other similar segment which did not have meet the 10% threshold criteria, or it can be included as all other segments category. For the 10% threshold test, we use a profit basis. We can see that food and beverages are 52.57%, while personal care is 70.95%, pharmaceutical are 16.51%, mobile communication is 12.71%. All the information is past the 10% threshold test. Meanwhile, the others is 0.26%, which is did not pass the 10% threshold test and become a non-reportable segment. For 75% of threshold test, the entity must ensure that the total external revenue is at least 75% of the entity's total revenue, which is attributable to those reportable segments. If the 75% threshold this did not meet, additional operating segments should be identified as a reportable segment even if they do not meet the 10% threshold requirement. For the 75% of threshold test, we can see that after we add all the operating segments, which are personal care, food and beverages, mobile communication and pharmaceutical, we have a total of 2,570,760 ringgit divided by 2,570,808 ringgit, and we will get 99.99%. Since it's already past the requirement of 75% of threshold test, we do not need to find any additional operating segment to be identified as a reportable segment. This is a segmental report for 7-Eleven Malaysia Holding Berhad. The difference between the new segmental report and the original one is that we create the new amount of the profit and revenue for personal care, food and beverages, and mobile communication, while we change the amount of the pharmaceutical while the others is The other information is remain the same. So we have a conclusion which is advantage and disadvantage of segment reporting. The fundamental objective of nation economy is to maximize economic and social well-being of the people through the effective use of resources. Capital is the most important thing in developed economy which governed by insufficient resources. Mr. Enterprise in particular turn to capital market get the money at a lower cost. Segment reporting is a tool used by the business to track the performance of several divisions of the company. Some people will do it independently to demonstrate which sectors are meeting the expectation and which are not. Depending on how the information is being used, there are benefits and the disadvantage of the segmental reporting. The advantage of segmental reporting, we have allocation of resources. If the segment information were made available to parties outside the company, it would significantly improve how scarce resources are allocated to the economy. Lack of information leads to the market uncertainty, which render the market ineffective for making investment. The removal of information flaws make market flawless and ensure it is the smooth operation. Additionally, the disclosure of the segment information may have a significant impact on management performance and motivate them to act their society and investors' best interests. It also prevents the business misconduct involved like fraud, unethical pricing decision, and unfair trade practice. Second advantage, which is investment and credit decision. Accounting, finance, and accountants organizations are all agree that segmented information is very helpful for making credit and investment decisions. It's also argued that the segment information enables the user of financial statement to more accurately analyze the risk and associated with investment or learn to the company operate that various market and industry due to uncertainty surrounding the timing and the amount of anticipated cash flow. While the disadvantage of the segmental reporting, we have misinterpretations. If the sales transfer between segments are included, if the segment sales figure are higher than the consolidated sales figure, user groups may interpret them incorrectly. Along with the sales figure, determining segment cost is also difficult. However, it is quite simple to identify the segment traceable cost, but the actually challenging is that we want to identify the segment portion of a common test that was incurred on two or more segments. And then lastly, we have a disclosure cost. Cost of disclosure also involved in segment reporting. The provision of extra information in addition to routine information raised the firm's operating expenses in the terms of payment processing fees and the management control system expenses. Cost of argument also mentions that potential for increased competition, which is based on the segment reporting.
Hi, my name is Nur Awatif binti Muhammad Asri and I will continue the presentation. Interim report is a financial report that covers less than a year. It is used to convey a company's performance before the end of the typical full-year financing report cycles. It also lets firms to communicate with the other investors with up-to-date information between the annual reporting periods. 7-Eleven made the report by sticking to all the criteria in paragraph 9.22 and appendix 9.9b of the Bursa Malaysia Securities Berhad listing requirements, and they adopt a discrete method and prepared on the periodic basis separately, which is quarterly. There are two bases of preparing the interim report. First is integral method. Integral method is a fraction of the annual report that is predominantly to predict and explain the financial information for the full financial year. It also conceals the actual results of operation and financial position in an interim period and lead to the recognition of their deferred that do not meet the definition of assets or liabilities. And it also will result in arbitrary normalizing of income and expense. Second is discrete method. Discrete method used to predict and explain the financial position and financial performance, and the result in more useful information to users of financial statements for decision-making purposes. Each interim period is considered to discrete method, and the reporting period are not associated with the expenses that may arise during the interim periods of the reporting year. An interim report is a separate period for discrete methods and prepared on the periodic basis. It is the same principle to treat an incomplete transaction as the year end. There are two accounting policies that are used in preparing the interim report, which is first, property, plant and equipment, which is MFRS 116. All items of property, plant and equipment are originally measured at cost less accumulated depreciation, except for land and properties and any accumulative impairment losses. The projected usable lives indicate that the average life expectancy in the industry in which the organization works. Land and buildings are valued at the fair value less any accumulated depreciation and impairment losses recognized at the time of the revaluation. The useful lives for building is the 50 years of the duration of the lease, whichever is shorter. For long-term leasehold lands, the duration of the lease is 99 years. For the computer equipment is 5 to 10 years. For other equipment is 7 years. For motor vehicles is 5 years. And for furniture fittings and renovation, 10 years or the duration of the lease, whichever is shorter. The second one is investment property, which is MFRS 140. Land building or part of a building or land and building owned by the owner under financing leases to yield rents, capital appreciation or both. Owner-occupied properties and those held for sale in the usual course of business, which is inventory, are not investment properties. It is originally evaluated in terms of cost including the transaction cost. Gain or losses that result from changes in the fair value of investment property are included in profit or loss in the period which they occur, including any tax consequences. Next is type of interim report that prepared by the company. The interim report that prepared by 7-Eleven is a quarterly interim that starting on 1st January 2022 until 31 March 2022. It is summary of unaudited financial statement that issued by the companies every 3 months and will be prepared after 4 quarters. The company prepared a condensed interim financial report for the first quarter that consists of: first, unaudited condensed consolidated statements of comprehensive income. Second, unaudited condensed consolidated statements of financial position. Third, unaudited condensed consolidated statements of changes in equity. And the last is unaudited condensed consolidated statements of the cash flows.
Now, I will be presenting the period of the current internal report and comparative. As you can see here, the company prepared the statement according to MFRS 134 from 1st April 2022 until 30 June 2022, which equivalent for the second quarter to the 7-Eleven holding Berhad in 2021. As for the statement of financial position, at the end of the interim period is 6 months, which is from 1st January 2022 until 30 June 2022. Meanwhile, for the comparative period preceding year is 12 months, starting from 1st January 2021 until 31st December 2021. Next, the interim report for the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income is 3 months, from 1st April 2022 until 30 June 2022. Meanwhile, for the cumulative interim report is 6 months and starting from 1st January 2022 until 30 June 2022. As for the comparative period for the current period is 3 months, starting from 1st April 2021 to 30 June 2021, while the comparative for the comparative period is 6 months, which is 1st January 2021 until 30 June 2021. Now, for the statement of change in equity and statement of cash flow, it has the same period as which is 6 months, from 1st January until 30 June 2022. Meanwhile, for the comparative period previous year is 6 months, starting from 1st January 2021 until 30 June 2021. For the last part of today's presentation, we will see the adjustment made by the company. For the first adjustment, it is related to the intangible asset, which is customer list. On 15 May 2022, 7-Eleven acquired a customer list for 200 million for its competitor for its business expansion program. The customer list can be used for indefinite life. As at 30 June 2022, the recoverable amount of the customer list is 140 million, while on 30 June 2022, there is an indication of impairment loss, which for the carrying amount is greater than the recoverable amount. Now, we look at the consolidated statement of financial assets at 30 June 2020. Before the adjustment, the intangible assets is 477393. After the adjustment, the intangible asset is 617393, which is the total amount of the intangible asset and the recoverable amount. For the second adjustment is about depreciation. On 1st April 2022, 7-Eleven acquired equipment costing 16.5 million with an estimated useful life of 10 years. The depreciation charge is calculated on a monthly basis. 1st April 2022 is the second quarter, which means the depreciation will be 412,500. So the carrying value of the equipment is 16087,500. This will be effect on operating activities for depreciation and investing activities for the purchasing of equipment. Now, we look at the consolidated statement of cash flow. For the cash flow from operating activities, before the adjustment, the depreciation of property, plant and equipment value is 1.574 million. After the adjustment made, there are increase of 412,500 because of the depreciation of the equipment. Now, the value is 1575112.5. For the cash flow from investing activities, before the adjustment made, the purchase of the property, plant and equipment is 17009. However, after the company acquired the equipment on 1st April 2022, it increased the value, which is 16087.5. After total up the amount, we get 33096.5.